Most people have handled them without ever noticing the hidden details, passed them off as worthless, or even spent them without a second thought. But collectors know something different. They know these small coins can carry hidden history, rare mistakes, and shocking value that almost nobody expects. If you think a 1950 coin still feels modern, wait until you step into the world of the 1951 wheat penny, because this is where everyday change starts to quietly turn into something collectors still chase across old jars, forgotten collections, and inherited boxes that haven't been opened in decades. At first glance, nothing about it looks special. A small copper coin, Abraham Lincoln on the front, the familiar wheat stalks on the back, and that tiny D under the year 1951 that most people never even notice. It looks like something you'd spend without thinking, something that disappears into a vending machine, a cash register, or the bottom of a pocket. But what makes this coin fascinating is not how it looks today, it's what it represents over time. Go back to 1951 for a moment. America is in a post-war transformation. The economy is expanding, cities are growing, and everyday life is becoming faster and more consumer-driven. People are buying more, spending more, and coins are moving constantly through circulation. The Denver Mint produces the 1951 wheat penny in massive numbers, meaning at the time, it was just another ordinary coin in a sea of everyday money. And that is exactly why so many people overlook it today. Because when something is common, it feels forgettable. But in coin collecting, common at birth does not always mean common forever. The 1951 wheat penny spent decades doing what coins do best, being used. It passed through hands at grocery stores, gas stations, diners, and school cafeterias. It fell into jars, got mixed with newer coins, and slowly became worn down by time itself. And that journey is the reason why finding a truly well-preserved example today is far more interesting than most people realize. The design still holds that classic wheat penny identity. On the front, Abraham Lincoln's profile stands firm, a tribute to one of America's most important historical figures. The details around him, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," and the year 1951, form a simple but powerful layout that collectors instantly recognize. On the reverse, the wheat stalks frame the denomination in a way that feels almost symbolic, like a reminder of growth, farming roots, and a nation built from the ground up. But the real story of the 1951 wheat penny begins when you look beyond the design and focus on condition. Because condition is everything in this world. Most of these coins are found heavily circulated. The copper surface becomes dull over time. Lincoln's face loses sharpness. The wheat lines on the back begin to fade, and the coin slowly becomes just another worn piece of history that no one pays attention to. But every now and then, something different appears. A coin that somehow escaped heavy circulation. A coin that still holds its original mint luster. A coin where the details are unusually sharp, almost like it skipped the rough journey most pennies go through. That's when collectors start paying attention. A high-grade 1951 wheat penny is not rare because it was never made. It's rare because so few survived in excellent condition. Over decades, even small scratches, contact marks, and environmental damage reduce the number of coins that qualify as premium collectibles. And then there's the color factor, something many beginners don't realize matters so much. A 1951 penny can appear brown, red-brown, or full red, depending on how well it has been preserved. That original red copper tone is especially important. When a coin still shows strong red luster after more than 70 years, it immediately becomes more desirable to collectors because it means minimal oxidation and better preservation. Now imagine combining all of that together. A 1951 wheat penny with strong strike quality, original red color, sharp details, and minimal marks. That combination is where things start to get interesting. Because while most of these coins are still very affordable in average condition, the value begins to shift dramatically as you move into higher and higher grades. The difference between a worn penny and a near-perfect mint state example is not just visual. It is financial in the collector market. Some high-grade certified examples can reach into the hundreds, and in stronger conditions, into the low thousands depending on demand, eye appeal, and rarity of preservation. And while that might sound surprising for something that started as a 1-cent coin, that is exactly how numismatics works. Time, survival, and condition completely reshape value. But the most fascinating part is not the money itself. It's the idea that this coin has been silently traveling through history for more than 7 decades. Think about it. This penny may have been used by someone buying a newspaper in the 1950s. It might have sat in a jar through the 1960s. It could have been rediscovered during a house move in the 1980s, then forgotten again. And now, it might be sitting in a modern collection, completely unaware of the attention it could receive from collectors today. That is what makes coins like this so addictive to people who study them. They are not just currency, they are survivors. And every 1951 wheat penny still in existence today has its own journey, even if no one recorded it. Now imagine someone finally sorting through an old coin collection. They pick up a penny dated 1951. They see the D mint mark. At first, nothing seems special, just another old coin. But then they notice something unusual. The surface is cleaner than expected. The details are still visible. The coin has a certain glow under the light that most worn pennies don't have. That's the moment curiosity takes over. Because in coin collecting, value is not always obvious at first glance. It reveals itself slowly, as you pay closer attention. And sometimes, what looked like an ordinary penny turns out to be a much better survivor than anyone expected. That uncertainty is what keeps collectors searching. Not because every coin is valuable, but because a few of them quietly are. And that brings us back to the 1951 wheat penny itself. A coin that was never meant to be rare, never meant to be special, never meant to be anything more than everyday money. Yet today, in the right condition, it has become something far more interesting than its original purpose. A piece of history that fits in your hand. A reminder that even the most ordinary objects can become significant with time. And in rare, top-preserved cases, a coin like this can climb into values that reach into the thousands, simply because collectors are willing to pay for survival, beauty, and history combined into one small copper cent. So the next time you see a 1951 penny, especially with that small D under the date, don't rush past it. Because most will be common. But a few, just a few, are far more than they appear at first sight. If you thought the 1945 wheat penny was interesting, wait until you hear what happened just a few years later, because the 1950 wheat penny carries a completely different kind of mystery, one that most people walk past every single day without ever realizing they might be holding a small piece of American history that collectors still actively hunt for. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. A simple copper-colored penny with Abraham Lincoln on the front, just like thousands of others. The date reads 1950, and beneath it sits a small letter D, quietly stamped under the year. Most people never even notice that tiny detail. But in the world of coin collecting, that small letter changes everything. To understand why, you have to go back to 1950. America was in a very different place. The war was over, the economy was booming, and the country was stepping into a new era of industrial growth, consumer culture, and optimism. Cars were becoming common, television was entering homes, and everyday life was rapidly changing. Coins like the wheat penny were still part of daily transactions, passing through millions of hands without anyone thinking twice. The Denver Mint struck the 1950 wheat penny, and it produced a surprisingly large number of them. So at first, you might think this coin would be common and not valuable at all. And in one sense, that is true. Most 1950 pennies are still worth only a few cents to a few dollars, depending on condition. But the story doesn't end there, because the real value of this coin is not in how many were made, but in how few survived in truly remarkable condition. Think about it. Every penny minted in 1950 started the same journey. It went into circulation, got spent on groceries, dropped in jars, lost under couch cushions, and rattled inside cash registers for decades. Over time, most of them became worn, scratched, and heavily circulated. That's why finding a perfectly preserved example today is so much more difficult than people expect. Now here's where the 1950 wheat penny starts to become exciting. In uncirculated condition, what collectors call mint state, this coin begins to transform from everyday change into something special. The original red copper luster, the sharp strike of Lincoln's profile, and the crisp details of the wheat stalks on the reverse all start to matter. Because in coin collecting, condition is everything. A 1950 penny in average condition might not attract attention, but one in high mint state condition can become a completely different story. When a coin has never been heavily used, its surface remains intact, almost glowing with its original mint shine. Under magnification, you can see details that disappear on worn coins. Fine lines in Lincoln's hair, sharp edges in the lettering, and strong definition in the wheat design. But there is another layer to this coin that collectors pay close attention to: strike quality. Some 1950 pennies were struck more sharply than others. A strong strike means the design came out clean and fully detailed during production. Weak strikes, on the other hand, can make the coin look slightly soft or blurry. And in collecting, that difference can significantly change demand. Now imagine a coin that not only survived over 70 years in nearly untouched condition, but also has a strong strike, original red color, and no visible marks or scratches. That combination is what collectors search for constantly, because it represents the closest thing to how the coin looked the day it left the Denver Mint. And this is where things get even more interesting. The 1950 wheat penny is not famous because it is rare in numbers. It is famous because it is rare in quality. High-grade examples certified at top mint levels are much harder to find than most people expect. That's because in the 1950s, pennies were still heavily used in everyday commerce, and very few were saved in pristine condition. Collectors often talk about red pennies, which means the coin still retains its original bright copper color. Over time, copper naturally darkens to brown, so finding a 1950 penny that still shows strong red color is already a significant advantage. Combine that with a high mint grade, and suddenly you have a coin that stands out in the collector market. And yes, this is where values can start to climb in ways most people would never expect. While the majority of these coins remain extremely affordable, top-tier certified examples in exceptional condition have been known to reach hundreds, sometimes thousands of dollars depending on demand, grading, and eye appeal. In rare collector-driven situations, especially when multiple bidders compete for a nearly flawless specimen, prices can rise dramatically beyond what most would assume for a simple penny. But what really makes this coin fascinating is not just the price, it's the idea behind it. A coin that once bought candy or gum in the 1950s can now sit in a professional grading holder, carefully preserved, studied under magnification, and treated like a historical artifact. That transformation is what drives collectors to keep searching through old coin jars, inherited collections, and forgotten boxes in attics. Because here's the truth most people don't realize. Valuable coins are not always rare at birth. They become rare over time. Every scratch, every fingerprint, every moment of circulation reduces the number of high-quality survivors. So even though millions of 1950 wheat pennies were made, only a tiny fraction remain in truly exceptional condition today. And sometimes, those coins are hiding in the most ordinary places. A family coin jar, a drawer that hasn't been opened in years, a collection passed down from a grandparent who never knew its potential value. That's the quiet mystery of coins like this. They blend into everyday life so easily that most people never stop to look closely. Now picture this moment. Someone finally decides to sort through old pennies. They notice the date, 1950. They see the small D under the year. At first, it doesn't seem like anything special, but then they look closer. The surface is unusually clean. The details are sharp. The color still carries a warm reddish glow. Something about it feels different. That's when curiosity turns into excitement. The coin gets checked more carefully. Maybe it gets weighed, examined under light, compared with reference examples. And slowly, the realization builds. This is not just another penny. This is one of the better preserved survivors of its kind. In the world of collectors, moments like that are what keep the hobby alive. Because every coin tells a story, but only a few still have their story intact after decades of time. And that is the real beauty of the 1950 wheat penny. Not just copper and metal, but survival. A small object that lived through a completely different era of American life, passed through countless hands, and still exists today as a connection between past and present. So the next time you see a penny from 1950, don't dismiss it too quickly. Look again, because while most are ordinary, a few are far more than they appear, and in the right condition, they can turn an everyday coin into something that collectors value far beyond its face. If you've ever held a handful of old coins and never really looked twice at them, This story will change the way you see every single penny in your pocket. Because somewhere among those ordinary-looking copper coins could be a 1945 wheat penny that carries a secret most people never notice. A small piece of history that survived war, time, and millions of hands, and in rare cases, turned into something collectors are willing to pay astonishing money for. Picture the world in 1945. The Second World War is coming to an end. Soldiers are returning home, cities are rebuilding, and everyday life is slowly trying to feel normal again. In the middle of all this global change, the United States Mint continues producing one of the most iconic coins in American history, the Lincoln Wheat Penny. It might look simple, but every detail of this coin reflects a powerful era. Copper, steel shortages, industrial pressure, and wartime demands all influenced how coins were made. Even the smallest cent carried the weight of a world recovering from conflict. The 1945 wheat penny was struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most of them were made in huge numbers, especially the Philadelphia version, which had no mint mark. Millions and millions of these pennies entered circulation. They were used to buy candy, newspapers, bus tickets, and groceries. People didn't save them. They spent them, lost them, tossed them into jars, and forgot about them. And that is exactly why today, finding one in pristine condition feels like discovering a frozen moment from 80 years ago. The design itself is something collectors still admire deeply. On the front, you see Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States. His profile was designed by Victor David Brenner, and it first appeared in 1909, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. Above Lincoln's head reads, "In God We Trust," a phrase that adds both historical and emotional weight to the coin. On the left side is Liberty, and on the right, the year 1945, the year that marked the end of a global war. But the real charm of the wheat penny is on the reverse side. Two wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America. It's simple but powerful. Those wheat stalks symbolize prosperity and agricultural strength, reminding people of America's roots in farming and growth. That design is exactly why collectors call it the wheat cent. It feels classic, almost poetic compared to modern coin designs. Now here's where the story becomes interesting. Because not all 1945 wheat pennies are equal. In fact, the majority are worth only a few cents above face value. But a small number of them, the rare ones, can turn into something extraordinary. The difference comes down to condition, mint mark, and sometimes tiny minting errors that most people would never even notice without a magnifying glass. Coins from the San Francisco Mint carry an S mark, while Denver coins have a D. Philadelphia coins usually have no mint mark at all. Among these, certain high-grade examples, especially those that were never circulated, can become extremely valuable. A coin that looks like it was just minted yesterday, with sharp details, original luster, and no scratches or wear, is what collectors dream of. But even more exciting than condition are mint errors. Imagine a coin struck slightly off-center, or one with a double die error where the letters or numbers appear slightly duplicated. These mistakes happened during production, and while they were originally considered flaws, today they are some of the most valuable treasures in coin collecting. A rare error on a 1945 wheat penny can transform it from a simple cent into a highly sought-after collectible. Now imagine holding a coin that has survived 1945, untouched, uncleaned, and perfectly preserved. Most people don't realize how rare that actually is. Coins go through years of friction inside pockets, cash registers, coin jars, and vending machines. Each movement slowly wears down its surface. That's why finding a flawless example is like finding a needle in a historical haystack. Collectors often look for something called MS grades, which stands for mint state. A 1945 wheat penny in MS 65 or higher condition can already attract strong attention in the collector market. But when you reach the absolute top tier, coins that are nearly perfect under magnification, the value can rise dramatically depending on demand, rarity, and auction competition. And this is where things get truly surprising. While most 1945 wheat pennies might only sell for a few cents to a few dollars, exceptional error coins or ultra-high-grade certified examples have been known to reach thousands, and in extremely rare situations, even tens of thousands. In the most dramatic auction scenarios, where multiple collectors compete for a perfect specimen with unique characteristics. Values can climb toward the unbelievable range that makes headlines. Think about it for a moment. A penny, something people once ignored, dropped on the ground, or left in jars, suddenly becoming worth as much as a luxury car. That transformation is what keeps collectors searching through old collections, estate sales, and inherited coin jars. Because the next coin they pick up could be the one that changes everything. One of the most fascinating parts of the 1945 wheat penny story is how it connects generations. Someone might have received it as change in the 1950s. That same coin could have been stored in a drawer for decades, passed down through a family, completely unnoticed. And now, in today's world, that same piece of copper is being examined under bright lights by collectors trying to determine if it holds hidden value. Even the texture of the coin tells a story. Older coins have a different feel compared to modern ones. The copper composition gives it a warm tone that changes over time, sometimes turning darker, sometimes developing a unique patina that collectors actually love. Cleaning these coins, however, is one of the biggest mistakes people make. A cleaned coin can lose significant value instantly because it destroys the original surface that collectors want to see. Another important detail is strike quality. Some 1945 pennies were struck more clearly than others. A strong strike means the design elements are sharp and detailed, from Lincoln's hair to the wheat lines on the back. Weak strikes can reduce collector interest, while strong, fully detailed strikes can increase desirability significantly. Now let's talk about why collectors are still obsessed with wheat pennies in general. The Lincoln Wheat Cent series ran from 1909 to 1958, making it one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. But the 1945 issue holds a special place because it represents the final phase of World War II. That historical connection alone adds emotional and historical depth that collectors appreciate deeply. And here's something most people don't realize. Coin collecting is not just about money. It's about history you can hold in your hand. Every scratch, every shine, every tiny imperfection is a record of time. The 1945 wheat penny is more than currency. It's a survivor of an era that shaped the modern world. If you ever come across one, the first thing you should do is look closely. Check the date. Look for a mint mark under the year. Examine the condition. Is it worn down, or does it still shine with sharp details? Does it look like it has barely been touched? These small observations are what separate an ordinary cent from a potential collectible treasure. And sometimes, just sometimes, what looks like an ordinary penny turns out to be something far more significant. That's why collectors never stop searching. Because history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes, it hides in plain sight, sitting quietly in a jar of forgotten coins. Now imagine the moment of discovery. A coin that sat unnoticed for decades is suddenly being evaluated, authenticated, and graded. Experts examining every detail under magnification. The tension builds as the coin passes through evaluation. And then the result comes in. A rare 1945 wheat penny, in extraordinary condition or with a rare mint error, confirmed as a high-value collectible. In rare auction situations, with strong competition among collectors, coins like these have reached astonishing figures. Exceptional examples have pushed toward values that can reach up to $80,000, depending on rarity, condition, and demand at the time. It's not common, it's not typical, but in the world of numismatics, extraordinary results always begin with ordinary-looking coins. So the next time you see a penny dated 1945, don't ignore it. Don't rush past it. Take a moment. Because while most are just history, a few rare ones are history with a price tag that can change everything. And that is the hidden world of the 1945 wheat penny, a small copper coin that carries the weight of a generation, the story of a world at war, and in the rarest cases, a value that turns something ordinary into something unforgettable.